A new artificial intelligence has just entered the ring, and it's not here just to participate, it's here to compete for the top spot. AI has just launched GLM-5, a next-generation model focused on advanced reasoning, executing complex tasks, and truly agentic intelligence. In other words, it's not just another fast chatbot, it's a system designed to compete directly with the heavyweights of the market. And when I say compete, I really mean compete. GLM-5 is taking aim at models like Claude Opus 4.6, which currently dominate programming, complex automations, and professional workflows with AI. Now, the big question is simple. Has a real rival finally appeared for the Western giants, or is this just another ambitious announcement? So, first of all, subscribe to the channel, and to watch the videos without ads, just click the button. Deal? So let's get to the video. Alright guys, today I want to talk to you about the launch of GLM-5. Listen up, we're launching GLM-5 focused on complex systems engineering and long-term tasks with agents. Scalability remains one of the most important ways to improve the efficiency of artificial general intelligence, known as AGI. Compared to GLM 4.5, GLM-5 scales by 360. 55 billion parameters. 32 billion active to 744 billion parameters with 40 billion active. And it increases the pre-training data from 23 trillion to 28.5 trillion tokens. With advances in both pre-training and post-training, GLM-5 shows significant improvements compared to GLM 4.7, and here they present the main benchmarks. Personally, I don't like this method, but it's what we have to make this comparison between the current artificial intelligence models. So, we can see that GLM-5 is neck and neck with major AI models, including Claude Opus 4.5. Pay attention, it's not 4.6. I don't know when this survey was done, but at the time, the top was Claude Opus 4.5. And we can see that GLM-5 even surpasses it, which is the case in this benchmark here. And it's very close to models like Claude Opus 4.5 and GPT 3.0. So, it's a new model that's coming in to compete in the market. We just don't know if it will reflect that in day-to-day use, because as I've already said here on the channel, benchmarks are done in a controlled environment. In day-to-day use, things are quite different. Notice that in this other comparison here, GLM 4.5 really outperforms GLM 4.7. And in some cases, it's also ahead of Claude Opus 4.5. In others, it's a little behind, but in this first one here, it appears ahead by a small margin. Then, they go on here with some demonstrations that have kind of become standard for these new AI models. Now, they're able to generate Word documents, tables, and also PowerPoint presentations. It seems that creating this type of document has become a trend among these new artificial intelligence models. I'll show you in a moment how this works in practice. Oh, and another important thing. This new model is available via the API, including for use with OpenCloud, formerly CloudBot. Listen up. In addition to programming agents, GLM-5 is also compatible with OpenCloud, a framework that turns GLM-5 into a personal assistant capable of operating in various applications and devices, not just in chats. So, if you want to do this integration, it's available as well. If you want to dive deeper into this topic, I'll leave the blog link right here in the description of this video. So, let's go. I'm going to show you now what I've already managed to create and make a quick comparison with Claude Opus 4.6. Well, for those who want to test it, you can do it for free right here on the ZAI platform itself, or if you prefer, here on Arena AI, formerly LM Arena. So, let's go. I'm going to show you now what I've already managed to create using this new model, GLM-5. You can see that it's available here in the selector. So, when we click here on the little arrow, GLM-5 New already appears here. Another thing, here we have two modes. This one here is the chat mode, which is normal, the one we're already used to with other AIs. And now, we also have the Agentic mode. So, I'm going to show you what I was able to create with this new mode. And really, it thinks more, it takes longer, but it delivers a really cool result. So, let's go. Starting here with what I got in chat mode, here's the first prompt. Design the official website for a high-end smart home system called Aura Home. The website should eliminate hardcore technical specifications which are typical of traditional tech products, and instead emphasize the fusion between invisible technology and lifestyle aesthetics, and this was the result it gave me. Look, it's a really cool website, very well made, with responsive buttons here, and it got everything right on the first try. So, from the tests I did here, this ability to create websites is very well developed. Because with just a single prompt, it gave me this result here, which I personally thought was really cool. I have responsive buttons here, drop-down menus, everything working just right. Here I have the preview. I also have access to the code, which I can copy and download to my computer. Or even a really cool feature, which is this editing feature right here. So, when I click, you can see that I can select parts here of my design, of my site, to ask the artificial intelligence to make specific corrections. This is the kind of tool that isn't available in the major models we have on the market today. For example, Gemini 3.0 and Claude Opus 4.6. You can't make these specific edits, at least for now. Here in GLM-5 you can do it easily. Check out this second example here. I asked it to create a 3D model of a Boeing 747 using Three.js, and this was the result it gave me on the first try. Here you have the front, side, top, isometric, and free views. And here I can turn the animations on or off. You can see it's moving the turbines here. In the free view, look, I can move it around, so it's a very well done rendering. It only failed here on this little part of the wing. Remember, I did all of this with just a single prompt. I didn't ask to edit anything at all. Here's another example now. With this one, we can compare it with Claude. I asked him to create a 3D model here of a mansion. Look how cool this result turned out. Notice that with this button here, I can switch between night, afternoon, and day. And the cool thing is that I have an animation here, which I can start again without using the mouse. And I can also use my mouse to navigate through the animation. And here on these 4 little buttons on the side, notice that I can also change the time of day here. Really well done, right? And you can see here that this was achieved with just a single prompt. Now look at this same prompt on Claude Opus 4.6. Check this out. You can compare, right? Here it gave me a really nice result. I have a very well done rendering here, totally responsive to mouse commands. However, these controls that appear here are not in Claude Opus 4.6. In neither of the two prompts did I ask for this type of control to be created. Here in Claude Opus 4.6, it didn't include them. But here in GLM-5, the controls are available and fully functional. So, it's a matter of preference. This animation here from Claude Opus 4.6 also turned out really cool. However, this one from GLM-5 is just as good. And another thing, he added the controls that I hadn't even asked for. In this other example here, I asked GLM-5 to create that app for me where I can put HTML, CSS, and .js files for what purpose? To render the website. So, I have here an app that can mix these 3 types of files. Let's see if it's working. Look, index.html, done, index file, now a CSS file, and finally script.js. Files loaded, view project. Look how cool, it's working perfectly. It managed to render my website here. Then I made this same request on Claude Opus 4.6. Look, it managed to load my website too. However, in the rendering done here on Claude Opus 4.6, it couldn't load the photos. I have the text, I have the animations, the responsive buttons, everything is working. However, the images weren't loaded. This rendering worked better here on GLM-5. Both apps were able to load the site, but here on Claude Opus 4.6, the images aren't showing up. In this other example here, which you must be tired of seeing on X, I have a photo, and when I hover the mouse over it, I can reveal another image underneath. First, here on GLM-5, you can see that it's working perfectly. You can see that I have Lewis Hamilton's face showing up perfectly behind this first image here. So, it's working just fine. I made the same request on Claude Opus 4.6, and the result was this one here. Very similar, right? The difference is that here on Claude Opus 4.6, I have the name here, Lewis Hamilton, showing up. On GLM-5, that doesn't happen. I only have the image. Here, it rendered Lewis Hamilton's name. The rest is all very similar. So, both models basically achieve the same thing. The only difference is that here on Claude Opus 4.6, it added the name. And here on GLM-5, that didn't happen. Then I made an animation here, and I thought this one turned out amazing. Because what I managed to get here on GLM-5 is much better than what was achieved there on Claude Opus 4. I asked it to create the solar system. Look how this is working. I have the mouse here. Everything's perfect. However, when I click here on the planet, pay attention to this animation. Look, it brings it here for me. That panel appears here with the basic information about each planet. But it has this animation here, which takes me directly to the planet. Look how interesting this turned out. Look, there's auto tour reset, remove the labels here, add them. Increase the speed. In this animation that I found amazing, when I click, it already does this zoom in to the planet with the information here on the side. Let's see how this happened using Claude Opus 4.6. I made this animation here inside LM Arena using the Claude Opus 4.6 model, and notice that I also have responsive buttons here. When I click here on the planet, it brings up the panel with the information. However, that zoom in animation, that approach effect doesn't happen. I can increase the speed here, remove or add the orbit, and do the same thing here with the labels. But if I want to zoom in, I have to do it here with the mouse wheel, and it's not working properly, because when I try to zoom in here, it keeps glitching. Look, it goes forward, backward, and then it slowly returns. I can't zoom in all at once, either on the sun or the planets here. That doesn't happen. And then, to get information about each of the planets or the sun, I need to click here. But even so, it doesn't do that zoom in like I have in GLM-5. I tested that function that isn't the chat feature, it's the agent feature. When we click on new chat, which I showed you earlier, selecting this agent option here, what was I able to create? That proposal that's shown here on the blog. In other words, through a prompt, I was able to create a docs document. See how the result turned out here in GLM-5. Notice that this was my prompt. It's a pretty long prompt. It thought for about 5 minutes, created the code for me, and more than that, generated the images that were used in my document. I made sure to record the screen here during this process to show you how this works. So, from the moment you enter your prompt here, it triggers the agents and starts coding. And more than that, it generates the images autonomously, which will be used inside the document. And in the end, it gave me this result here in Brazilian Portuguese, which I thought turned out really cool. It's a Word document. As you can see here, it's in .docs format, and here I have the cover, sponsorship proposal. Then I have the text very well formatted in Portuguese, and those images it generated are available here throughout my document. So with just a single prompt, it was able to give me a .docs file, very well done, very well formatted in Portuguese, and what's even better, with the images it generated itself. I asked for the same thing using the same prompt on Claude Opus 4.6, and this was the result. Notice that the prompt here is the same. First, it gave me the document in English. I had to ask it to translate to Portuguese, and this was the result. Notice that I have a similar document here, very well formatted, and it even added some tables here. However, it didn't generate the images. It gave me the document, it's in docs format just as I asked, but I don't have the images. So if we compare what was done here in Claude Opus 4.6 with what was delivered here by GLM-5, the model from ZAI performed much better. Of course, they are different proposals. What it delivered to me here in Claude Opus 4.6 took about 1.5 minutes, at most 2 minutes. Now here in the Agentic mode of GLM-5, it took 5 to 6 minutes, but the result was much better. Another thing, it's worth noting that this Agentic mode is still in the beta phase. So, when you try to use it, you might run into some bugs because it's not fully developed yet. But at least in this test I did here, to create a report in docx format, what was delivered here by the GLM-5 model is superior to what was created by Claude Opus 4.6. Of course, these comparisons are specific. Obviously, those who work with programming do this every day. We'll prefer Claude Opus 4.6, which is the most advanced model, the one that is already more established in the market. But what the people from ZAI delivered here is something deeply relevant. Because besides coding, this new Agentic mode, which is still in beta phase, is delivering very good results. Especially when we compare it with other models that are already on the market. Now, the last example I want to show you was created using GLM-5 on LM Arena. I asked it to create a clone of the Mario Brothers game and see how it turned out. I'll click restart here and let's test it. Cool, right? Look, out of the Mario Brothers clones I've created here on the channel, this is one of the ones that's working best. I can hit the blocks. Check this out. It was created here at LM Arena. So the rendering engine, both here in LM Arena and on the platform itself, ZEI, they're working in very similar ways. I can play here perfectly. I died. So did you see that? This model is really cool. It's working perfectly. It can create not only websites and apps using agent mode to create documents, but also little games very efficiently with just a single prompt. So guys, it's available for free, both here on the Z platform and on LM Arena. Try it out and then come back here in the comments to tell me what you thought of GLM-5. So, what did you think? Opus 4.6 GPT Codex 5.3 or GLM-5? Which one do you prefer? Let me know in the comments, okay? I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.
Soul of my being, can you see?